The Garden Gate, A Tale of Light and Friendship by Cecilia L. Kiangte, Chapter 1. The Village of Bolte. Marcus was a kind and gentle boy, known for his warm smile, the kind of smile that felt like sunshine after rain. It was so contagious that anyone around him couldn't help but smile back. He lived with his grandparents in a small, quiet village named Bolte. Life in Bolte was still simple and slow, completely different from the busy, noisy world beyond. Here, the days were calm, filled with the scent of wildflowers, the sound of birds, and the laughter of children. One sunny morning, Marcus decided to visit the garden near their house. It was only a 5-minute walk away, just past the old wooden fence and a row of mango trees. On his way, he met his friend Elazar, a funny, playful kid who was always full of jokes and silly ideas. "Hey, Elazar, I'm going to the garden. Want to come?" Marcus asked. "Of course." Elazar grinned. "That garden has the juiciest berries. Maybe we'll find treasure." They both laughed and skipped toward the garden together. What Marcus didn't know was that this visit would be different, very different. Marcus's kindness wasn't something he learned from books. It was something he lived every day. His parents and grandparents had always treated him with warmth, patience, and love. Even though his parents now worked in a faraway city, and he lived with his grandparents in Bolte, Marcus never once complained. Of course, he missed his parents dearly. Some nights, he would look up at the stars and wonder what they were doing. But deep down, he understood they were working hard for the good of their family. And because he was loved so much, love naturally flowed out of him, like sunlight through a window. Elazar, on the other hand, lived with both his parents and a noisy bunch of brothers and sisters. He was the youngest in the family, and often the center of everyone's attention. His father was known all over the village for his sense of humor. Whether it was at the market or by the riverside, he always had a joke ready that could make even the grumpiest farmer laugh. Elazar had inherited that same joyful spark. He wasn't the kind of boy who told jokes just to be silly. He knew when to make people laugh, and how to lift their spirits. His laughter was bright and natural, like wind chimes dancing in the breeze. Marcus and Elazar had been best friends since they were just babies. Their mothers used to lay them side by side on soft blankets under the village trees, letting them play with wooden toys and bright leaves. As they grew, their bond grew stronger. Whether they were chasing butterflies or sharing snacks, they were always together. Because of that deep connection, they always supported each other, through little troubles and big adventures. They knew how to make each other laugh, and more importantly, they knew how to listen. They stayed true to each other, no matter what. Chapter 2. The Garden Gate. This was the first time Marcus had gone to the garden without an adult. But he felt brave with Elazar by his side. As they opened the garden gate, something strange happened. The air shimmered. The garden path sparkled with colors they had never seen before. Trees hummed softly and flowers leaned in, as if to greet them. In a blink, the world changed. Gone were the usual plants and fences. Instead, they stood in a magical realm, the world of the fairies. It was beautiful beyond words. The sky was a soft lavender, and tiny glowing orbs floated like fireflies. The air smelled sweet like honey and summer rain. They stepped in slowly, amazed. Chapter 3. The Fairy World. The fairy world was more beautiful than anything they had ever imagined. Everywhere they looked, colors shimmered and danced in the air. There were flowers in every shade, some glowing, some humming gently like bees, and others as tall as a child. Animals roamed freely through the open fields, smiling and playing. Birds sang songs in a language they could now understand. Even the rabbits giggled as they hopped by. In the distance, majestic mountains wrapped around a clear blue sky. Lakes sparkled like mirrors. Rivers sang their own soft songs as they flowed through the valleys. At the very heart of this magical land stood a tree, not just any tree, but a tree of light. It was enormous, with silver bark that glowed faintly and leaves like little lanterns. This was the home of the fairies, a living, breathing place of magic and peace. The air around it shimmered with warmth. To the right of the tree flowed a gentle river, glowing with soft blue light. This was the fountain of youth, a sacred stream said to carry healing and memory. It whispered the laughter of children and the songs of ancient fairies. Beside the tree stood a massive clear crystal, almost as tall as the tree itself. This was the crystal of vision. Its smooth surface reflected everything that happened within the fairy world, like a magical window that watched over the land. And everywhere joy bloomed. All the animals could speak, and they greeted Marcus and Elazar with cheerful voices. "Welcome, chosen ones," said a talking fox with fur like golden flame. "The fairy realm is yours to explore," added a wise old turtle, smiling slowly. But the strangest part was that when they stepped back out, everything returned to normal, the same old roadside and garden. And yet, every time they passed through the gate again, they returned to that magical world. Inside the fairy realm, they met the fairy princess, a tiny glowing figure who flew so fast she looked like a streak of light. When she saw them, she gasped. At once, all the fairies around bowed low. "The prophecy has come true," the princess said. "The saviors have arrived." Marcus and Elazar blinked in shock. "Saviors? What are you talking about?" Marcus asked. The fairy princess flew closer, her wings like sunlight dancing on water. Chapter 4 Princess Leora. The fairy princess's name was Princess Leora. She was kind and gentle, with a soft voice that made even the trees lean in to listen. She loved everything in the fairy land, the fairies, the animals, the flowers, and even the smallest blades of grass. Her heart glowed with the same warmth that lit the skies of her kingdom. When Marcus and Elazar stepped through the garden gate and entered the fairy world, Princess Leora was filled with joy. Her wings fluttered faster than ever, and her eyes sparkled. "The prophecy," she whispered. "It has come true." Long ago, Leora had been told of a time when darkness would slowly creep into their land, a sadness that would dull the laughter of animals, wilt the brightest flowers, and dim the glow of the tree of light. Only 2 children from the human world could stop it. One with a heart full of true kindness, and one with a spirit of pure joy. Now she stood before Marcus and Elazar, the ones foretold in legend. But Marcus and Elazar looked at each other, confused. "Us?" Marcus asked. "We don't have any magical powers." "Yeah," Elazar added with a nervous chuckle. "We're just regular kids." Princess Leora knelt gracefully in the air, her wings shimmering behind her. "You may not have magic in the way we do," she said, "but your hearts carry a power stronger than any spell, the power to bring hope, to heal what's broken, and to remind others how to love." Still, the boys weren't so sure. The world of the fairies was bright and beautiful, but the idea of saving it felt overwhelming. "But what if we mess up?" Marcus asked softly. "You won't," said Leora gently. "Because you won't be alone. The forest will guide you. The fairies will help you. And most of all, you'll have each other. You are the 2 children of the prophecy. Long ago, it was said that only 2 humans, one with a heart of kindness and one with the spirit of joy, could save our world from the creeping darkness." Elazar raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure it's us?" The fairies giggled softly. The princess nodded. "We're sure. Marcus's kindness and Elazar's laughter are the keys to unlocking the heart tree, the center of our world. But first you must pass 3 trials: kindness, courage, and wisdom." Suddenly, a path of golden leaves lit up beneath their feet. "The first trial awaits," whispered the wind, as if the world itself was watching. Marcus looked at Elazar, and Elazar looked back, wide-eyed but smiling. "Let's do it," Marcus said, his smile growing brighter. They held hands and stepped forward into the unknown. Chapter 5 The First Trial, Kindness. Princess Leora fluttered toward the glowing tree of light, her voice calm and full of purpose. "The first trial begins now," she said. "It is the trial of kindness." A path of soft moss and glowing flowers opened before Marcus and Elazar. The fairies gently waved goodbye as the boys followed the trail into the woods. The deeper they went, the quieter it became. The songs of birds faded. The bright colors dimmed into pale greens and soft grays. Soon they arrived at a small, gloomy clearing. In the middle of the clearing sat a creature, a small, scruffy-looking hedgehog with droopy eyes and patches of tangled fur. He looked tired, cold, and angry. He huffed when he saw them. "Great! More humans." Elazar raised his eyebrows. "What's his problem?" "Sure," Marcus said gently. "Maybe he's just having a hard day." The hedgehog muttered. "No one cares about me. Not the fairies, not the forest, not even the sun. I used to be happy. But now I'm forgotten." A nearby fairy, glowing faintly, whispered in Marcus's ear. "This is Hugo." His sadness turned into bitterness. "To pass the trial, you must show kindness even when it's not easy." Marcus nodded and slowly knelt beside Hugo. "I care," he said quietly. "Even if we just met. It must be hard feeling forgotten." Hugo didn't reply, but his eyes flickered with a hint of surprise. Marcus continued. "I don't have magic or potions, but I can listen. And if you want, I can stay here with you for a while." Hugo looked up slowly. "Really? You'd sit with an angry old hedgehog?" Marcus smiled. "You're not just an angry hedgehog. You're someone who's hurting." Elazar stepped forward, holding out a little wildflower he had picked. "And I found this on the way here. It's not much, but it's bright, Like your smile probably used to be. The hedgehog blinked, then sniffled. A single tear rolled down his cheek. You two are strange, Hugo mumbled. But, thank you. Suddenly, a warm breeze swept through the clearing. The dull colors brightened. Flowers bloomed around Hugo. His fur began to shine, and a soft light wrapped around him. A fairy voice echoed through the trees. Kindness is not in great acts, but in small moments of care. The trial is past. Hugo sat taller now, smiling for the first time in a long while. You're going to save this place, he said. Marcus and Elazar looked at each other, still unsure, but now filled with something new, hope. As they walked back toward the Tree of Light, the path glowed brighter than before. And waiting at the end was Princess Leora, smiling with pride. Chapter 6: The Second Trial, Courage. After the trial of kindness, Marcus and Elazar returned to the Tree of Light. Princess Leora met them beneath its glowing branches, a look of pride in her eyes. You've passed the first trial, she said softly. But the next one will test your heart in a different way. She waved her hand gently, and the ground beneath them shimmered. A new path appeared, darker this time, lined with tall trees that whispered in voices only the wind could understand. This is the trial of courage, she said. Not all fear comes from monsters. Sometimes it comes from inside you. Marcus felt a flutter in his chest. Elazar gave him a small nudge and grinned. Let's go. We've come this far. They stepped onto the path. It was colder here and quieter. The light of the fairy land dimmed behind them. Soon the forest thickened and fog swirled around their feet. From deep within the mist came a sound. Drip, drip, crack. They turned a corner and froze. A towering stone bridge stretched over a deep, endless canyon. The bridge was narrow, broken in places, and there was no railing. Just wind. And silence. And the great unknown below. Marcus stepped back. I don't know if I can do this, he whispered. What if we fall? I'm scared too, Elazar admitted. But maybe that's part of it. Maybe courage isn't not being scared. Maybe it's crossing anyway. They heard a rustling behind them. A group of fairies appeared, hovering quietly. Only one may cross at a time, said a fairy guide. But both must cross to pass. Marcus looked at the bridge again. He took a deep breath. His heart was pounding like a drum, but he thought of his grandparents. Of Elazar. Of all the animals and fairies who believed in them. I'll go first, he said. Step by step, he moved onto the bridge. The wind howled. The stones wobbled. A piece crumbled beneath his foot, but he jumped just in time. Don't look down, he whispered to himself. Just keep going. When he reached the other side, the fairies cheered softly. The bridge shimmered faintly, as if brighter now. Elazar stood at the edge. He swallowed hard. I can do this, he said aloud, puffing out his chest in mock bravery. I'm Elazar the Brave. Marcus smiled from across the canyon. Elazar stepped forward. A gust of wind caught his jacket, nearly knocking him off. He froze, but then remembered Marcus's words from before. You're not alone. He looked up, locked eyes with his best friend, and took the next step. Then another. And another. At last he reached the other side, panting, but grinning. We did it, he shouted. The canyon behind them vanished in a flash of golden light. In its place was a lush field, full of sun and singing birds. A voice echoed through the wind. Courage is not the absence of fear, but walking through it anyway. The trial is past. Princess Leora reappeared in the field. You've come far, she said, beaming. And only one trial remains, the hardest of all, the trial of wisdom. Marcus and Elazar looked at each other. Tired, yes, but stronger. We're ready, Marcus said. And together, they stepped forward once more. Chapter 7: The Third Trial. Wisdom. The field faded behind them, and once more the land shifted. Now Marcus and Elazar found themselves at the edge of a quiet glade filled with glowing stones and tall trees that sparkled faintly with golden dust. The air was still, almost like time had stopped. Princess Leora appeared again, her wings fluttering slowly. You have been kind. You have been brave, she said gently. Now you must be wise. A single silver path appeared between the trees, splitting into 3 separate trails at the other end. A carved wooden sign stood nearby. It read, Only one path leads to truth. Choose with your heart, not just your eyes. Elazar looked around. What does that mean? Before Leora could answer, she vanished, leaving behind a soft bell-like chime in the air. Marcus stepped closer to the paths. The first was bright and colorful, lined with flowers and glittering stones. It looked like a fairy tale dream. The second was foggy, shadowed by crooked trees and strange whispering sounds. Cold air drifted from its entrance. The third looked plain, a narrow dirt trail, a little overgrown but quiet and peaceful. I don't like the second one, Eleazar muttered. It's giving me the chills. The first looks nice, Marcus said. But maybe too nice. They sat for a moment thinking. Then a soft voice behind them spoke. It was Hugo, the hedgehog from the Trial of Kindness. He waddled out from the bushes. I was asked to help, he said proudly. But I can't tell you the answer. I can only offer this riddle, passed down by the Tree of Light. He cleared his throat and recited. The wise path may not shine or shout. It does not beg nor twist about. It is the one that asks you why, not the one that pleases the eye. Then he bowed and disappeared into the forest. Eleazar scratched his head. So, not the flashy one. And not the creepy one either. Marcus looked at the third path again, the simple one. It asks you to think, he said softly. To be quiet and listen. Not to rush. That's wisdom. They looked at each other and nodded. Together, they stepped onto the third path. The forest slowly opened up. Soft lights guided their steps. Along the trail, they found a series of questions carved into tree trunks. Would you help someone who was once unkind to you? Would you speak the truth, even if it meant losing something? Would you give up something precious, if it meant saving someone else? They didn't need to speak. They both knew their answers, and they kept walking. At last, the path ended at a glowing pool of water. In its surface, they saw reflections, not of themselves, but of all the things they'd done since entering the fairy world. Marcus's smile with Hugo. Eleazar encouraging him on the bridge. Their fears, their doubts. Their growth. A warm voice echoed from the trees. Wisdom is not knowing everything. It is knowing what matters most. The trial is past. The forest brightened. Flowers bloomed. And in the distance, the Tree of Light sparkled with renewed energy. Princess Leora appeared once more, her eyes full of joy. You've done it, she said. You have awakened the Heart Tree. Chapter 7 The Awakening of the Heart Tree. The ground beneath Marcus and Eleazar glowed faintly as they stepped out of the forest path, and the sky above the fairy realm began to shimmer with soft golden rays. Ahead of them stood the Heart Tree, taller, brighter, and more alive than ever before. Its silver bark sparkled like stars, and its glowing leaves whispered in a language older than time. The roots pulsed gently with light, reaching deep into the earth and far across the fairy land. Princess Leora stood at the base of the tree, surrounded by all the fairies, animals, and forest spirits. They had all gathered in silence, waiting for the final moment. Marcus and Eleazar approached slowly. The Heart Tree glowed brighter with every step they took. Princess Leora turned to face them, her eyes shining. You have passed the 3 sacred trials with kindness, courage, and wisdom, she said. But more than that, you have reminded us of what truly matters. The boys looked up at the tree. Its leaves began to rise, dancing as if carried by an invisible wind. Long ago, Leora continued, the Heart Tree was the source of our light. But when doubt, selfishness, and fear crept in, its light dimmed. Only hearts pure and true could awaken it once more. Marcus reached out gently and placed his hand on the trunk. The bark was warm, not like wood, but like a heartbeat. Eleazar joined him, his hand resting beside his friend's. For a moment all was still. Then boom! A low, echoing pulse rippled through the earth. The tree lit up from within. Light poured from its branches and roots, spreading across the land like dawn rising over mountains. Fairies gasped in awe. Animals danced with joy. The rivers shimmered, the flowers glowed, and even the sky sparkled with new colors. The fountain of youth beside the tree bubbled higher and clearer than ever, its waters singing once more. Above them, a soft voice, the voice of the Heart Tree itself, spoke without words, but they felt it in their minds and hearts. Thank you. For remembering the good in the world. For believing in each other. For being exactly who you are. The tree opened a soft beam of light around Marcus and Eleazar, lifting them gently into the air. The fairies cheered. Princess Leora wiped a tear from her cheek, smiling. You have saved us, she said. The light slowly faded, and the boys floated back to the ground. The tree glowed gently now, peaceful and full of life. Eleazar looked around. So, does this mean we're heroes? Marcus laughed. I guess it does. Princess Leora nodded. The world of fairies is safe again because of your hearts. Chapter 8 Farewell to Fairyland. The sun in the fairy realm began to set, casting a golden light across the trees, rivers, and glowing flowers. Everything sparkled a little more now, brighter, warmer, alive. Marcus and Eleazar stood hand in hand beneath the Heart Tree, their journey complete. Around them, fairies gathered in celebration, twirling through the air like glittering petals. Laughter echoed through the woods, and animals big and small clapped, cheered, and sang. A gentle bell rang through the air, soft and sweet. It was time. Princess Leora flew down from one of the upper branches of the tree, her wings glowing brighter than ever. She looked at the boys with both pride and a trace of sadness. "You've brought hope back to our world," she said. "And though we wish you could stay forever, your world needs you too." Marcus's eyes widened. "Wait, we have to go now." Elazar frowned slightly. "But we just got here." Leora smiled gently. "That's how magic works. You find it, you help it, and then you carry it with you in your heart." She waved her hand, and a soft breeze carried over the garden path. The gate they had entered through, the ordinary-looking one back in their village, shimmered into view. "You may return whenever the realm calls you again," Leora said. "The garden gate will remember you." The animals stepped forward one by one to say goodbye. Hugo the hedgehog gave Marcus a small, shiny acorn. "It's not magic," he said, "but it's lucky. Like you." A silver owl flew down and perched on Elazar's shoulder. "Never forget," it whispered. "Joy is its own kind of magic." A fairy child handed them a small bottle filled with glowing dust. "To remind you," she said shyly, "of the light you helped restore." Marcus turned to Leora. "Thank you for believing in us." "No," she replied with a soft laugh. "Thank you for being exactly who you are." Marcus and Elazar walked slowly to the glowing gate. They turned one last time to wave, and all the fairies bowed deeply. As they stepped through, whoosh, they were back. In their garden, the grass was soft beneath their feet. The trees stood quietly, birds singing nearby. Everything was exactly the same and completely different. The sky was pink with sunset. The village of Bolte felt peaceful. Familiar. Elazar looked at Marcus. Was that real? Marcus opened his hand. The tiny bottle of fairy dust glowed softly. "Yeah," he said. "It was real." They smiled and walked home together, the stars beginning to twinkle above them. They didn't have fairy wings or wands, but they had something better. Kindness, courage, wisdom, and each other. The end. Please like, subscribe, and share.